Hi, this is Lori from Interior Design Community, and I am with To the Trade, and I have a special guest. I'm so excited to talk to Lori Paranjape, Mrs. Paranjape on Instagram. Lori, this has been such a journey for both of us because honestly, you were probably one of my favorite Instagrammers since I started Instagram. It's been that long since
So
Instagram
long.
started, and I've had a bird's eye view, just peeking in, watching you grow through the years. And I would always send people to then when someone would complain, like, oh, I'm not getting any business from Instagram. I was like, look at this business because you were building an empire on Instagram and you were doing it before anyone else was doing it with real luxury clients, a real design business, profitable design business. And you were getting bigger and bigger. I was seeing projects far away, regional projects close by, and then these awesome projects that were even in my neck of the woods in New England. So
Mm.
I really want to first start to talk. I mean, we're going to talk about a lot of things, and I definitely want to get into the business side too. But for all of the people who still are like, I don't know about social media, is it worth the time? Could you just give us an overview of what Instagram has done for you as a designer and your business?
I think maybe we back up one sec into my intro and say that while I was sharing all of those lovely, flattering things that you said, I was also sharing the things that were absolutely not going my way
Right,
and that were failing,
right.
or when I was in trouble with a client, or because have struggled always with perfect polish and not loving that from other people, and then not feeling authentic if that's how I was portraying myself, and didn't really feel like that was genuine. It didn't feel natural to me. So this whole time that I've been doing this, there has been like a need for me to create this community similar to what you have, that where there's a little bit of trust between me and the audience, where if I fail in front of them, they are not going to enjoy my failure. They might enjoy what I learned from it. They might be able to use that and grow from it. But this Mrs. Paranjape account that I have with all of these people has been this safe place for me to win, and people aren't mad that
Right.
and to lose. And people are not celebrating my losses. And so that to me is the dip. So I have an interior design account, but I feel like that has been my method and that's what works for me. And I think it would have been maybe the same if I was a painter or I was an accountant or I was anything else where I couldn't just do nuts and bolts. It had to be, there had to be like a realness.
There what
So
it is, and you do that very successfully. I think, like, you have attack it in a way that your feed and your stories are 2 different accounts, if anything. Like, if I'm following you on your feed, it's not the same as if I'm following you on your account on your, stories. And
no,
you
it's the mullet, and I've been saying that for 10 or 15 years, that the feed is polished and it's professional and it's, like, sleek. It's my portfolio, and the stories, and even now this little, like, Piranha Peeps thing is the real. Like, it's the party in the back. It's the shit show. It's it's the fails, right? Like, I don't put that on my portfolio, but who puts failure on their portfolio? That's the highlight reel. The use of the stories is connection to me. The page is portfolio, stories is connection. And that's really what I'm in it for. I would have petered out a long time ago if I'm just trying to be perfect and share a flawless something. I don't know. That's exhausting just to think about.
I think that people have been very responsive to that, and they have embraced you as a person as well as a designer. And sometimes it's you cleaning out your bathroom, and sometimes it's just sharing what's going on in the day to day. And that's life. That's what a designer has to face every single day. It's a business where I think a lot of designers feel like they have to have this very polished exterior, and that's what the clients are looking for, that perfection, if you will. But that isn't real for any of us. We're all scrambling, running around in the morning, trying to get our hair straightened.
Right.
And it's
That's right.
like,
Well, and
and
that's actually what I hear. So when people hire us, we don't tend to do a bunch of interviews. We do a handful, and it's usually someone who is referred to us. They have not been following us for a while. If I get a referral, they want to interview me. And that's fine. They don't know who I am, right? They don't have any context for any of this. They're like, okay, pretty pictures, but how's this work? Fair, totally fair. When people have been following us for a long time and then send that inquiry and reach out about having us be their designer, there's usually not an interview process because they feel like they already know. They have heard they know that part. They know the rest of it. They have an idea of what our design meetings are going to be like. And they already know that it's not going to be all serious. I do love a little jokey joke.
right,
Like I love to have a good time doing what we're doing. And so there doesn't tend to be a bunch of interview because they already saw I've already revealed it. This is not there is no, like, magic anything in front. It is, like, right here, and then when they say, "Okay, now I'm ready. We have the money, we have the project. We're ready to go. Now I only need to know what that actual number is for us,
right,
and I need a little technical of how this whole thing works." Other than that, this is the interview. This is
right.
putting it out there as the interview.
And they have already have that trust built in because of all the things that you share, and they know your process better than any other client would just coming off the street. That is brilliant. It was a brilliant strategy from day 1 to plan it out that way. I recognized even with interior design community that I did it very differently, and I've been trying to, like because I had the mystique of interior design community for a long time where no one knew who I was, which was really exciting, and it was behind the scenes kind of situation, um, and what allowed us to grow in a different way, and then we've been slowly putting in what I call the personality post because we have great personalities. Why not share what we're doing? We're doing cool stuff, so it helps people understand a little bit more of the behind the scenes of what interior design community is doing, but I love that you've done that, and I love that you've embraced that. Can you tell me a little bit about how that actually affected your bottom line too? The business as it was when you started Instagram and the business as it is today. What did it do for the business financially?
Funded it.
Right,
It changed our lives. It absolutely is transformative.
right.
And so when I started, I hung flyers that I printed out and offered $35 an hour paint consults to pick a color for a dining room, and I was getting I probably made $400 total. Did not come out yet. The woman before me is not the same woman that I was when I started all of this, and I was very unsuccessful. I was untrained. I was learning on the job. You cannot charge for things that you do not know how to do. I was very inexpensive and very inexperienced. Those 2 things should be partners, right?
And they should be. Yes.
Yeah, they should
Just
be.
we just got a message this weekend from a designer who's like, "How do I build a portfolio without all these photographs?" You're cheap. That's how you do it. You gotta
That's
be
how
cheap.
you do it. And, like, later, there's a transition that people go through or should go through, in my opinion, where you stop giving away your goods for free, but
Right,
it is not when your goods are not valuable. When your goods are not valuable, there is some value in giving them away for free because you need something,
right,
and you need content, and you need reps, you need experience, you need mistakes that you can then autopsy and
right,
be embarrassed and be honest and say, "I absolutely said the wrong thing." I could see it on her face, like, when I said the wrong thing. I knew I said the wrong thing.
right,
Like, "Hey, learn, write that one down," right? Otherwise, lo and behold, we find ourselves making the same mistake again until we're ready to, like, really look the good ones in the eye and decide to not make them again. So, your question was, how have I seen my business change from the beginning of Instagram until now? And the answer is that it allowed me to grow from $35 an hour paint consults that I was advertising in a paint store to this incredible opportunity
Right.
that I have nurtured and loved and hated and so evolved and poured into and asked and invited people like you and other important people to me who care about me and want things for me and are cheering me on and cheerleading me and have been generous enough to share things that they've learned to have this business where we have unbelievable, like, I cannot believe, and I still on a regular basis require a pinch me. I'll say a sentence and I'm like, says things like that. Says that's the finish we want on the wine room ceiling. So when we have the bottle, whatever, like something absurd that we're designing. And I'm like, who gets to say stuff like that? Who gets to do this? Like, how are we here? And filled with gratitude about the types of projects and the types of clients that we're able to work with.
They have, and you have an amazing business. Some of your clients are celebrities, you have a great staff. Like, you are building your brand. That is what you were able to do. And I know a lot of even I know a lot of brand accounts with professional PR agencies and professional marketing staff that hasn't built a strong a an account as you have, like, not getting the engagement that you have, not getting the feedback that you have. So you should be really proud of that accomplishment because it's huge. It's a lot bigger than people recognize to have that happen. And the work that you have to do, and you have to let go a little bit of, like, how much am I going to share? How much am I, you have to give into that and craft the online persona that is very authentically you, but also is strategizing and geared towards Instagram so that it works and it's received and it is heard. And I know all the work that goes into it because I do
Yeah.
it for interior design community. So I get it 100%. And it's a wonderful thing to see. It really has. It has been a huge joy for me to watch you grow
Well,
and see the
yeah,
projects you get to do.
reciprocated, like reciprocated that were one thing when you started and you are still that one thing today. But the way that you handle us and share with us and ask for trust and then return trust, and that's where I think all of the DNA sits. That's you should be replicating is that good stuff. And then it's palpable and it's shared right back at you.
Aw, thank you. Thank you. So, we want to have a very serious discussion today. And we really want to talk about something that a lot of designers don't love to talk about, which is money. Why do you think that discussing money in the interior design industry is so challenging for designers? And what do you think we need to do as an industry to shift that conversation?
It's hard to talk about money. It's hard to talk about money in relation in your marriage. It's hard to talk about money in your relationship. It's hard to talk about money all the time. People have feelings about money. People have failures. They have pride. They have there's all sorts of things wrapped up in finances. And we as designers are embarking on a journey with one or two people, that client, whether it's one or two, that are making the largest investment they've ever made. And we are right there spending, virtually spending that money for them. And the pride that they have wrapped up in that wealth that they've accumulated and their fear about releasing that and their ignorance in the most truthful way about how to spend it or where to put it and what is a good decision and what is a bad decision, that's all in there. And whether or not you're a young designer who gets for the first time that 10 or $15,000 big job, that is probably the first 10 or $15,000 that that client has spent, right? We are paired with our clients, right? With our level of experience and our ability to use them. When we're not well paired, we lose them.
Right.
The client fires us, right? They don't trust us. We didn't do it right. We didn't say all of those things. So everybody's, oh, I wish I had clients with budgets like yours. I'm like, I didn't have clients with budgets like mine when I wasn't ready, like when I couldn't
Right.
do it. Like we don't just like magically get that trust. But so we walk into this sort of precarious situation that looks really shiny and exciting at the beginning in that first call. But underneath it is a lot of anxiety and a lot of fear on the part of the client. And they're saying to us, I have all this money and I'm ready to do this. And I need help. I need stewardship. I need advice. I need to know that I am not wasting this opportunity and this money. And how do I do it? That's not what it sounds like in the inquiry. A lot of times there's some bravado.
Right.
Like the inquiry comes through and it's, oh, we're looking at 6 million to build and we're this many feet and we want this. And, but underneath it, that is always true. I don't care who you are. And now at this point with our clientele, my clients are very accustomed to now walking onto the car lot and they're like, which one do I want? Does it have all the fancy things? Should I order it instead? Oh, I'll take that one. They put it in their pocket and they walk away. With us, you're home, everyone knows, biggest investment. And very often they are met with that car is too expensive for you. You can't afford it. Well, that's weird, right? All sorts of things. Like, how much is it? And we answer. And how much is this? And we answer. And those answers are not what they were expecting. We're a mystery industry.
We are. It's 12 years later, I'm still somewhat shocked, but coming from a different industry, that that's what we are. We are, and we still, I mean, you still, for, I would say 99.9% of the designers do not have pricing on their website, do not share pricing openly at all with each other, even. What is that? We might see a lot of beautiful rooms, but we don't know what those rooms cost with, even with each other. We're not even sharing that information with one another. And it's, how do we expect clients to walk in and know what these items cost if we're never sharing
So
it?
so I would not argue, but I would counter that by saying, I don't expect them to know when they come, but it is 100% my job to make sure that they understand the moment we meet
Right.
before we ever meet again, if we're ever to meet again. My job in that inquiry call is to teach them what it takes to get the result that they have been watching and seeing me release and share and show and teaching them how much that costs. You
Right.
can Google how much it costs to buy a Range Rover. You can't Google how much it costs to design a house with an interior designer at 8,000 square feet and full furnishings. You can't Google that. So they have
Not with an accurate number. Believe me, I've Googled it. It's
no.
not right.
They have
Not
they
accurate.
have fear, they worry about what it is, or they come in at my place, at my phase, and they're certain that they can do it.
Right.
They're ready to just add it to cart. And
Right.
sometimes they do. I tell them the truth, and sometimes they just put it in their cart. Other times they digest it and measure it. But if I can't tell them what it costs, we're done and we haven't started. Number one, they might, if I can't tell them and they sign with me and we go forward, at some point they will fire me.
And I have seen what you do. If, for those listening, you have these beautiful rooms that you've designed in the past and you put a price on them and you go over with the clients. This, you like this room, this is what that costs. You like this room, this is, with examples of master suites or primary suites, and then the beautiful open floor plan living room area or kitchen. You have specifics, and then you have prices attached to those specifics so that people will immediately be aware of what that structure does. Does anybody get terrified when they see that and run away, or because that's what I'm expecting.
Oh,
People are like, "Whoa, I had no idea."
so again, we talk about phases in a design career, right?
Right.
So I would guess that 90% of my design inquiries do not hire me because they run. They run from the money. They love what we do. They're like, I really want to do this. And they send the inquiry. I answer honestly, really upfront, big numbers, big, fat, scary numbers. And you said we don't share. My like dodge for that is we are 6-figure design fees and 7-figure furnishing fees, furnishing budgets. It's the generic figure design fees, 7-figure furnishing budgets. I share what it's going to cost, and almost everyone goes away. I don't know everybody, and I'm not for everybody. And there are lots of designers available at all sorts of different, on the whole spectrum are available, and there's someone for everyone, but I'm not for everyone. We are not for everyone.
That's what you're charging, and how do you, in that process where you have presented and they have run the 95%, that's a big number, 95% saying, "Whoa, I didn't realize that," and then taking off as a lead. So you're closing 5% of your leads that are coming in. How does that affect you, your ego, or your own person as a person? How does that affect you? Are you fine with that? Would you like to see those numbers go up? Is it something that your own ego takes a beating, or no?
There's a there for me, I remember talking to my husband. I'm gonna answer this a long way. Talking to my
Yes.
husband, I was starting this business about rolling a snowball up a hill, right? And as you roll it up the hill, the snowball is getting bigger, so it's getting heavier, and you're learning, right? And it falls back on you and falls apart, or the snow's not the right temperature, and you can't get a good pack. I'm like rolling, and I can see what I'm doing. I can see I was climbing and learning and growing and all of these things. At some point, 10 years in, I got and I started to go down the other side, and things became a bit easier. I am asking them to say no. I am urging them to say no.
Right.
I am someone described it as an anti-sell is what I do. We joke that it's like, "How much is it?" I'm like, "So fucking expensive." "How long does it take?" "Forever."
Right.
"How much do you charge?" "Tons."
Yes.
"You probably don't wanna do this. It's
Right.
probably too much. It's a lot. It's so much." And if they stay because for one thing, it is at this point.
Right.
It's bonkers, and I get it. I'm a human being. I have a house, I have family, like, we spend our money. I understand it's so much money that we talk about, and no one should do it unless they really want to. But if you wanna do it the way that we do it, which we have a proven track record, we have huge successes. We have a successful model, and we have stunning results. And if that's what you want, you need to understand that this is what it costs. And if
Right.
you want that, I would love to hear a little bit more about your project to see if we're a good fit, because I marry these freaking people for 1, 2, 3, 4 years. So I like a happy marriage. I like a healthy relationship. So we're going to have to get through all these barriers to see if we're a good fit. And then if we are, we're like in. And I don't ever send an invoice and hold my breath that they're nervous about what that number looks like. We did that way long ago. We've already negotiated. We already did that. We're
Right.
in.
Yeah.
Here's your light bill. Here's the lighting invoice.
Right.
Here it is. My design fee. Here it is every month. You've been seeing it since the day that we signed. It's the same every month. So there's no surprises. Surprises equals getting fired.
Right. Right. That is
They're
true.
they're mad. You didn't tell them. Either you didn't know or you were afraid to tell them because you thought they would walk away. And what you didn't know is if you let them walk away before they're mad, you never get in trouble. You don't win by getting a client that is not suited to you. How do I feel that 95% of the people who send an inquiry don't hire me? I feel great about it.
That's great.
Because the 5%, 10% that do, they're in.
Right. The
Eyes wide open,
Yep.
informed consent. Yes, I can afford that. I value that. I trust you. I think you're the right one. Let's freaking go.
Right. Do you
Let's design a house.
right. And how is your process led you to a booked a booked process out so you have plenty of clients coming in despite those parameters, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, that's awesome. That is what every designer would probably dream to have, but I think the barrier is the lack of communication with those clients and the lack of transparency in some cases. Did you find what are some of the mistakes you made in the beginning with that early initial appointments and that clarity that you got with your client?
All of them. I made all of them. I made all of them multiple times. I made all the mistakes. I said all the wrong things. I said, "Oh, you have a $10,000 budget and you want a room full of furniture and wallpaper and window treatments and a new light fixture and all of the furnishings, and you want it in 6 weeks? Okay, I'm in." And
Knowing
I
you have to do that wallpaper yourself, you're gonna find a light fixture at Home Goods, like, there's
and I couldn't do any of it.
no. Yeah,
And so I won the job,
right,
and then I delay their disappointment.
right,
So I didn't win anything. And when I began to get that, the happy ones were the ones that I said, 10,000, ton of money that you saved. That's a lot of cash on hand. Love that. Here's what we can get for 10. Let
right,
me, let's break this down. Let's look at this. So I did a window treatment project and we were able to get it in at this much. And we had there's a really, one of my favorite light fixtures. It's a really good price and it's a lot of impact. We can do this. And furnishings, we can do this. But so that's me offering them information that they don't know. Like I'm leading them, I'm managing their expectations. It's a funny word. I've talked about it before. I'm sure you've heard me talk about it before. I am comfy being the expert. I am the expert.
right,
They're coming to me as the expert. When I invite a plumber into my house, I fear the plumber because I don't understand how plumbers work and I don't understand how much plumbing repairs cost. And I'm nervous. Like, so are you going to tear up my floors? Is this a $400 service call? Is this a $4,000 problem? Is this a $14,000 something? I don't understand. I don't know. Don't want to call a plumber because I'm afraid and I've dread. So that beginning, that intro, when I share the costs and the fears and I manage their expectations for what their budget is, we can move forward. They can make a decision. But, that early stuff when I didn't have the words to say, I didn't go back and look at what those projects cost me.
right,
Couldn't tell them. And I
right,
didn't look at how many hours I spent doing it because I couldn't tell them. So then I
right.
couldn't tell them. So then how much does this cost? I'm like, I don't know.
Ugh.
But do you want to join me? Do you want to hire me? You love it? You love
Yeah,
it? Are you so happy? You
yeah.
know,
I work my
I
butt
want to,
off, it's great work.
that's tough.
Because that's the thing is you can work really hard at not making very much profit. You can work really, really hard in this industry and not make very much
And
because you aren't pricing things correctly. You aren't paying yourself. I know designer like we tell designers all the time, it's always shocking, but if you Google this, like the average interior designer makes $50,000 a year or under, the average, not junior designer, interior designer. And I have had multiple conversations with interior designers without health insurance, without 401ks, that the seriousness of that, of not looking at those numbers. And it's a huge thing. We have to be looking at the numbers and making sure we're making profitable businesses or what are we doing here? And I love that you're sharing this information because it's so fundamental in a successful business. We just put out a end of year business review with John McClain. He's a design coach and a designer as well in LA. And it was just like, here's all the things you might want to look at the end of 2024. So you go into 2025 with some success plan to get going. And
mm,
I think those things are so important. There are designers that have a tremendous amount of experience that don't know their profit margins because there's just so many balls in the air. When you think of an interior design project, how many SKUs are in a typical interior design project? Imagine trying to make sure your general profit, despite all delays, all manufacturing problems, all procurement issues, is actually at 30% or actually at even 10%. Some people aren't even doing that. I think it's amazing that you're being so brave to talk about this issue and having this kind of transparency. Do you have a lot of designers that reach out to you to have these conversations?
You and I have talked about this over the years and the
Yes.
business things, and when you post topics or ask questions, the ones that I tend to respond to are the general business stuff
Sure.
that's so interesting to me. Um, and I feel like I have cracked a code, not the code, a code that works for me.
Right.
And so I shared with you, and I've shared with my followers that I'm working on a shareable something. My main business is in being a designer, and
Right.
that is the business that I'd like to pursue. I do think so the people who reach out and have follow-up questions or put a box up and then they're like, "Okay, but this okay, but how do I handle this? And what about this? Or how do you say that? Or how do you show them that? Or how do you do all of that?" So I'm gonna wrap it up in a package, and I'm going to have this basically my DMs. We're gonna
Right.
conversation
Right.
about about my DMs, and I'm
Right.
gonna do that. I think it's gonna be in January and offer it, and I'm also gonna offer the option, who wants it, to look at my deck that I send to prospective clients, to look at my pricing precedent information, to look at my design agreement, to show
Yep.
what we've come up with,
Yeah.
my crack of the code.
Right.
But still cracking it, by the way, still developing it, still learning all the time. So yes, lots of DMs. I think that maybe I'm a safer place for people to ask a question because there's no idea that flawless.
Right.
Nobody nobody who follows me thinks I'm flawless. So, the ones I've examined and figured out, I think there is something to share, and I want to take one of the most difficult things that I went through and can now assess and share back. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do a little informal, "Here's my
And I
thing."
I highly encourage designers who are out there getting any sort of education because I do think the education system in interior design is difficult. You're not learning a lot of the business aspects of running a business and marketing a business and dealing with client communication, sales, when you go to design school. That is just not something that a designer learns. And every designer I know has to either learn the hard way or hire some sort of coaching, some sort of program so that they can get those basics and learn or just learn. Sometimes you're just learning from the interior design community. But
Mhm.
I do think that it's very interesting to see that you can follow these experts that have, like you said, cracked the code. They know what processes work for them. And sometimes I've seen designers go from expert to expert to expert, and you're always going to pick up something that you did not know.
I mean, as I've been sort of putting together what I might be sharing and all of that, I'm looking at my peers who who have superb things to say. I learn something from someone else every freaking day. I take a screenshot of someone's beautiful work, send it to my team like, "This is look at that.
Wow. Yeah.
What is this? Why I never crossed my mind, but that's brilliant." And hopefully I'm giving that energy in my Instagram community to say on their thing instead of just screenshotting it and moving on, but on their image and saying, just that's so good, so smart, like, love that. But yeah, so I'm picking up things from everybody else, learning what everybody else does. I wanna be competitive in at the level where I am, I wanna be competitive. I don't wanna lose an amazing project to a different designer who has a can present a better process,
Right.
or I don't wanna lose that. Don't think that me being okay with losing 90 to 95% of my inquiries means I'm okay losing every job I don't get. There are
Right.
some that I want,
Right.
like, oh, like that comes through and I want those old feelings are there where I want to undershoot so I can get it, or I want to hold back on a difficult something in hopes of charming them and getting them in. Then I have to remind myself, you don't want, if they're not yours, you don't want them.
Right.
Like,
Even
it
if the
won't
project's
last.
so exciting. I know, and
That's
that's the
right.
hard part for designers is that sometimes that 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 beautiful little ball, shiny ball of the project is also because you're an artist and you want to do your art and the project can be so exciting that you're willing to just compromise your standards. And
Mhm.
that's
I talk a
something.
lot about holding things loosely. When I'm like this, we're toast.
Yeah,
Like, it's already over. If I'm holding on to this,
right.
white knuckle, holding on to something, patching, it's leaking everywhere, and I'm like putting a patch in and all like, we're done, we're done, we're done, we're done, we're done. What integrity do I have left? How can I salvage this in the best way possible so this ends nicely?
Right,
This is my preferred gesture. This is my preferred. They sit willingly in my hand.
right,
I don't them, I don't chase them, I don't lie to them. Like, they just rest right there where they want to be.
right.
They wish to be with us. They think that they're right with us. They want to be right there, and that's where I want them. I don't say that in the yucky, I have them in the palm of my hand way. I
No,
say that in the
they
holding
want to be
things
there. Yeah,
lightly. What is meant for me will be for me.
right.
And if it's not meant for me, then fly with no damage, right? Like, these are meant for me.
I think that is I remember a designer on our board saying, "You want those clients who absolutely get you and you get them too because that makes the relationship so much better." And you don't also wanna rob the client of an experience of working with a designer that gets them better than you do. You know, that relationship is more cohesive. It's also a very big thing for them to be doing this, and they should be working with someone that they like too. So if you're pretending or you're faking just to get it in there, ugh, it can just so backfire.
Mhm.
Do you think that transparency in pricing, like markups and flat fees and hourly, could because has been a problem in our industry? Because it's still very much the same since I first started, where you talk to a different designer, the pricing is very different. Just how they run their business is very different. And I'm not going to say that I don't believe there aren't patterns there. There are absolutely, it's not every single designer is completely different. But do you think that as an industry, we probably need to think about some standardizing of pricing or how designers tend to work with clients might be beneficial to the whole community of designers?
Yeah, I think I would leave overhauling the industry to you and your communities. I think,
Would it be
I
beneficial though to obviously a certain level of designer is going to be a certain level of pay.
like, I can't sit here in my expert chair and be an expert on something that I'm still fumbling this sometimes. Like,
Right,
I'm still not perfect at this. Our messaging is that the items that we provide and procure for their projects are marked at a fair retail price.
right,
That is our offering.
right,
So sometimes Google can hose you, right? So Serena and Lily's running a sale. I can't control that.
right,
And we're not Walmart and we don't price match,
right,
right? But fair retail means that on the whole, we're competitive. Like,
right,
we're right there. So you're not, you pay, like, I hate that people say, oh, when you work with me, you don't pay more. You pay so much more when you work with me because you pay me a freaking fortune.
right,
So yes, you do. Can we stop the
right,
charade about discount, or I don't
right.
know what that is. I
And why
just don't.
should the design fee
I
cost?
don't. I this is a job, and so and that procurement takes time and energy and knowledge, and there's a lot of tracking. There's magic that happens for the client that they don't feel a bunch of those rocky things when the table comes in damaged and the box is dented and our white glove receiving warehouse opens it up and takes the photograph and sends it to procurement, and procurement files a claim, and then procurement arranges the pickup, and then we get it, and then the table gets returned to the warehouse and now it's perfect and that's been recorded on our tracking. And then when we do a delivery on installation week, the table is perfect.
Right.
How
And
much
they
does
didn't
that table cost now?
Right. Right.
So, I stand proudly in fair retail. There is markup in it, but so there's markup in a screwdriver at Home Depot, but we don't argue with the clerk in an apron talking about how much did Home Depot pay for that screwdriver,
Right. Right.
right? We're not going to talk about that. You can just roll into Home Depot or you can do a pickup at Home Depot and you can have the screwdriver. It was 12 bucks. What's it to you?
Right.
Much Mr. Home Depot had to pay for it,
Right.
right? Is it valuable to you? Do you want it? Is it a reasonable price for a screwdriver? That's how much it costs.
Right.
Where I stumble a little, and we're working on it, is retail things that we have to buy to do the magic of an install at the level we do an install that we cannot buy from a wholesaler.
Right.
So we want paper towels in the pantry and we want tampons so the organizers can organize them in rainbow colors inside the drawer.
Right.
And we want light bulbs. And sometimes we buy light bulbs from our lighting vendors, and sometimes we do an order of light bulbs. And so that's a retail price. I don't get a discount on the light bulbs.
Right.
So we need to mark that up. So whenever I run into this feeling, it actually signals now somewhere in the good, healthy part of my brain.
Right.
I say, I need to back up and manage expectations. So when I keep running into this, I'm like, move backwards to pricing, move backwards to that first phone call, move
Right.
backwards to my contract, move backwards. Stop hitting the same, look around the freaking corner, Lori. Like,
Right.
not you, Lori, me,
No, I
Lori.
don't.
Like,
Yeah.
look around the corner. What are you doing about this retail price? Why are they mad
Right.
that their paper towels or their light bulbs, instead of being 75 cents, the light bulb was 250 or 150, right? I'm not like buying a beach house on my light bulb markup,
Right.
right? But we have to cover costs and we've got to
Well,
do
you've
that.
got
So
people that are putting them in the rainbow colors. You've got the overhead of putting those light bulbs
they're
in.
being received at the warehouse.
Right.
We're organizing the shipment of that. We're receiving the shipment of that. Someone's standing there with a book, checking in everything that comes into a job site to make sure we've received everything. There's a lot to it. So pay me, back up. Tell them in the beginning. Make that clear. When we buy retail, we will try to buy everything at fair retail. But when we have to buy retail at retail, there will be markup in order for this magic to happen. Because do you want to buy the paper towels and deliver them the week of the install? They want that experience that we offer. And part of that is that there's a little bit of markup in order to make that magic happen. But I'm telling you, this is something I need to do because
Right.
I'm stepping in that right now a couple
Right.
times.
You
I need
want
to
them to have
out
the
of that.
wow, and they wanna have the wow, but that costs money. You know?
It does. It does. And
Yes.
I need to explain that because it makes sense.
Yes. Yeah.
It doesn't make sense after they have an invoice and they're like, why is this simple object, easily Googleable, so expensive on my invoice?
Right.
Now I can't explain.
Right.
Now it's just they feel ripped off
Right.
and there's a breach of trust.
Right.
So I'm reminding myself that this is a document. I need to update this. I need to get this into my easy exchange because in the beginning, when they want me so badly, that's when I tell them all the bad.
Right. Right.
And they're like, sounds reasonable. Oh, okay. So yeah, that makes sense. If you're going to be buying everything, it would make more sense that it's there when you need it and you order it. And okay, that makes sense.
Right. And then we can
Not when
walk
they're
in.
reviewing,
Yeah.
not when they're reviewing an invoice.
No. No.
And they're starting to price check. And now they're like, well, wait a second. How much was the chair? How much was the rug?
Right.
There's a light on sale at Serena and Lily, and it's less expensive. It's 20% off.
Right.
Now we're in trouble. Like
Right.
now we're sort of like we're kind of toast at that point.
Right. And you want them to become repeat clients, so you don't want those bad feelings. You want them to feel like they were cared for in
I
this
want to make
process.
informed consent that
Right.
yes, it makes
Yeah.
sense that you buy the paper towels for me and
Right.
that like that makes sense. And yes, I bless that.
Right. Right.
Informed, consented, done.
Right.
Go forth and buy paper towels for me.
I can tell you a repeat conversation that I've had with high-end successful designers is instead of when you have a problem with a client, some sort of where someone is anytime someone is getting angry with you, that you realize it's a process problem and not a them problem. I love it.
It's you.
Yes.
It's me. It's me. I'm
Right.
telling you, it's me. We did this last week. We did this last week in this office. Painful, 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 painful. Checking an invoice, client questioning, pricing, comparing online. We did this last week. And I gave a little speech and said, for one thing, none of us here, especially me, have the luxury of disliking a client. Do not be mad at that client.
Right.
No. Number two, what are we doing wrong?
Right.
Why you mad, bro? We
Right.
did something wrong.
Right.
We did it. We can either put a surcharge on top of a retail item and allow them to ask and answer whether or not that's okay, and then move forward and not get in trouble for it. But if we put it on there, hope that no one, it's like a kid hiding like that, right? And
Right.
then they call us on it, and now we got to get ourselves out of trouble. I was like, stop being mad at the client. Be better.
Right. Right.
Be
That's your way
better.
through. Is
That
it's to look at those problems and own it and change the system so that it doesn't happen again with the next client.
this is your system.
Yes.
You presented your system to them. They've agreed to that system. And now we have failed because we introduced a system that we didn't tell them about, and
Right.
they don't like it and they feel there's a breach of trust. And when that trust slips, like when this, and they start to like kind of come out of that, or they flutter their little wings up out of my hand, right? When that trust is gone, it's a, it's not a little problem. You are a breath away from losing that client.
Right.
Like, do not mess with people's money.
No. No.
Do not misrepresent.
Right.
Do not send an invoice and say this is everything and then forget that you needed to do the window treatment installation fee invoice
Right.
and choke at sending it. It's you. It's not them. That's you. Did you
Right.
tell them that the window treatments have a window treatment fabrication and then a window treatment installation? And those are two different invoices?
Right.
Why are you mad at them? How are you mad at the client for being mad at you or sending an angry text at 5:45 p.m. on a
Right.
Friday, right? That's not them. That's you. Also, you need boundaries. But
Right. We are so hard when you're so desperate sometimes for the you think of all those new designers and how they just want the job. They
they do.
just want the job so badly that they're willing to ignore all of the red flags, all of the and sometimes the red flags are you. That's the other part of it that doesn't get talked to.
Walking red flag, right? Like
Yeah,
you're walking inexperienced. You've fallen in the holes you didn't even know were there, right? It's not even just seeing around one corner. It's nothing but corners
nothing but corn.
when you're new,
I love
right?
I love that. I am so thankful that you took the time to talk to us. How can a designer who's listening reach out to you and find out about the program that you have or that you're starting to have? How can they
Right.
yes
And
or
and program loosely, like, there are coaches
loosely?
out there,
Yeah,
they're so good at what they do, and
sure.
I have enormous respect for that they've developed these programs. This is really more of a sharing of a what we have done, what we do, and what our process is,
Right,
and I'm willing to share that, and
right.
maybe it will be helpful to some people. I would like emails. People to when you share this podcast, I would love to coordinate with that, and I'll put up an email box
Sure.
for people who are interested, and they can send us an email, and then we're gonna send out pricing, a little preview deck, and then we're gonna schedule it, and I think it's gonna be a Zoom just like this, and everybody's gonna come to the party, and we're gonna have an off-camera conversation about facts and figures, process, things I've learned, things I'd like to share, and people can join, and then they're gonna be able to download or purchase some of the some
Collateral
money.
materials. Yeah, yeah,
That's right. Of
yeah.
the stuff that I, sweated over and gotten a tummy ache over and written and rewritten and consulted lawyers and paid lawyers and to get pretty tight. S
Right.
so I'm gonna offer that at some point, and when you share, I'll share, and people can send me their email so we can drop it in their mailbox.
That is amazing, and I think that will be it's such a helpful resource for so many designers. I just know knowing it, even if you're taking the profits and recognizing, okay, I'm not as experienced as Lori is, I'm going to bring this down a little level. It still gives you that basic of
Oh,
here's
yeah.
things that you need to be paying attention to. Here are the conversations
Not
you
how to bill like I bill. It's more about, like, how
right.
did I get
How
to
to get
billing
there.
how.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and what does that look and how are those conversations being had so that you don't make the same mistakes? Because and I love that designers that do that, that take the time because not everybody has it in them to teach, so or wants to give back in that way, and that's okay, that's perfectly fine. You're not no one says you have to teach what you've learned along the way, but it is incredibly, incredibly a powerful resource for the designers who haven't had that experience yet because you're saving them those lost clients. You're
I
saving them
hope so,
all those headaches.
right? And
Yeah,
I hope a little internal processor change to what you said earlier, which is when the negative thing happens with the client, look at your process.
right,
Stop being mad at the
right,
client. Look not this way, look this way.
right,
What did you do? Back up. How did you intro that? How did
right.
you prepare them? You're the expert. You have to teach them.
I love that. That is so fantastic. Thank you, Lori, for coming on to our podcast. We really appreciate it. I hope you listen more, and we'll have all sorts of information in the description so that you can go over and check it out for yourself. Bye, everyone. Bye, Lori.
Thank you.